think it's fair to agree that over points in 2011 and 2012, James Storm's character was one of the hottest characters in wrestling. And I think it's fair to be said right now, he was involved in a filler match on TNA's last pay-per-view of the year. And I think since then, this character, and I think you will agree with me here, has gone from up there, red hot, and I think it's steadily declining. And I really don't like that, because I was always a massive James Storm fan. Out of Beer Money, we both like Beer Money, but I like James Storm. But you were more of a Bobby Roode guy, weren't you?
Bobby Roode was the man, and he's right by saying what he does now through Beer Money, and even now, Bobby Roode is carrying James Storm on his back.
Yeah, okay. Like this video, guys. Subscribe down below and comment any thoughts down below you have on the James Storm character and where you think it is going, because it's really strange to me that at one point I think TNA had gold in James Storm, and now I feel it's just got to a point where a James Storm title win just won't feel as special as it would have done at certain points during the calendar year 2011 to 2012. So let us know your thoughts there.
And make sure you contact us in the links in the description box below.
Oh yeah, we're the British Fist.
Gotcha.
Mr. Parkin here, and this guy standing next to me is none other than NJ.
What's up?
And you'll be watching this video on Monday and also on tnasylum.com, so go check out that website. So James Storm's character. It all started off with Bobby Roode and James Storm as a tag team, as Beer Money. You were a Roode guy, I was a Storm guy. But in late 2011, the tag team broke up. They were both involved in the Bound for Glory series. They were both put in big spots, in semi-final spots. Bobby Roode went on to win the Bound for Glory series. But I think we knew at that point that Bobby Roode, your guy, and James Storm, my guy, would definitely be big players for TNA going forward, which was definitely a good thing for the company, which previously in the main event only really focused on old guys.
With Bobby Roode and James Storm, they were built up correctly. They're at a point in their careers when they wanted more, they wanted to do more, even though they could have gone on and did so many more great stuff. They were at a time in their career when they had to break up and go off, and they did the right thing by going to a feud against each other, turning one heel, one face, and doing something with them.
Indeed, you had Bobby Roode in the final Bound for Glory in the main event. You had him lose to Kurt Angle, which was a real shame. But I think TNA, they wanted to make him heel, and they gave James Storm his first. I mean, you've got James Storm and Bobby Roode go from here to about here. The next night on Impact, James Storm wins the belt. He has what, a 2-week title reign, and then eventually the belt gets won off him by Bobby Roode, who you say were better. And this essentially was the thing that started off the Beer Money storyline.
With the whole 2-week run, this is where things straight away, when I heard everyone getting behind James Storm, I thought, well, doesn't this show you bad stuff for TNA?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a shame that his first title reign was 2 weeks, but the way I saw it, I didn't like the 2-week title reign, but the way I saw it is they were going to set up for a big blow-off down the line. And that is one critical point I'm going to talk about later on in this video with regards to James Storm's character. But after he loses the belt, they really did a good job, in my opinion, in putting his character out there, highlighting his finisher, enhancing his character, involving him in feuds with legitimate heels as Kurt Angle and Bully Ray. And they did all this going into a big match with Bobby Roode at Lockdown. So in my opinion, at this point of the year, James Storm was one of the highlights of the TV show. He was a new character on board. I could really get behind this character. And going into Lockdown, the period from that point onwards to Lockdown, where he was going to face Roode for the first time since that point, I was really, really looking forward to seeing James Storm possibly winning that belt.
Well, the fact they had Roode up as champion at the time, the next concentration obviously was Storm, building him up, making him the attention, making the fans want to believe in him and want to see him actually go and beat his ex-tag team partner Roode. So the way they did this was important.
Yeah, indeed, and they promoted his character incredibly well during this period. And then we get to Lockdown, the big match between James Storm and Bobby Roode. Now, this was definitely a very big match, and a match that I personally was really, really looking forward to. Now, we had Bobby Roode win at James Storm's expense at the Lockdown pay-per-view. Some felt that this was the point where James Storm could have won, but I think at the point in time, losing it at that point made the big blow-off match for Bound for Glory a little bit better if it was for the title, which it ended up not being. But first, just give your thoughts on the loss at Lockdown. Did you think it affected the James Storm character? Did you think it enhanced it? Or
Well, straight away at this point, I can remember nearly everyone was saying Storm's moment, Storm's chance, go for it, win it. And I was just like, okay, maybe this is the point. But after that 2-week title run, to be honest, I don't really care what they do with Storm, even though he was at a point where him beating Rude after Rude running his mouth about Storm was needed, and when it happened, the match was unbelievably good. They both had a chance for Rude to win, a chance for Storm to win, and it got to the point thinking, how can we do this in an unexpected way and make them both look strong? And the way they did this, yes, it broke loads of people's hearts, as people said at the time, but it was a very good moment, and Rude retained, and Storm got frustrated during that.
Yeah, and I think at this point in time, I was really annoyed. I think that they didn't put the belt on James Storm, but I kind of understand why they did it, because they were looking more long term. And if the plans played out like they would have done, I think James Storm would have been made into a massive star for TNA. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. I think James Storm's character was enhanced a little bit from this. They had him take a little bit of a break. They brought him back pretty strong, back in the Bound for Glory series. And I think it got to a very crucial point for the James Storm character, where I think he got lost in the shuffle a little bit. Because I think at first TNA's plans were, let's have James Storm win the Bound for Glory series, let's have him face Bobby Roode, let's have him win the belt. But then plans changed. Firstly, they had Austin Aries win the belt at Destination X, solidifying Option C and putting it on Jeff Hardy later on at Bound for Glory. And that meant that James Storm's character was kind of lost in the shuffle. He had that good match with Bobby Roode, but it wasn't that big blow-off title match, big moment match he was expecting, especially from the way they built it up earlier from Lockdown onwards.
Well, following the whole return, yes, he defeated Creams at the end of his streak. But moving on from that, yes, it wasn't the biggest return match, but again, it did justice for Storm. He went on, and the thing about this is, yes, he went towards Bound for Glory, and for me personally, yes, it made two big matches, as we got Aries and Storm's match, but I did feel that the title was a huge importance, especially when the 2-week title run, then the fact that he was unable to beat Rude in an accidental match at Lockdown, and it was a point where the belt was important for the feud, in my opinion. The fact he took it away from the feud. The match we got was really good again, but I felt the belt was needed, especially for Storm's long-awaited arrival for the belt.
I do agree with you. This match with him and Bobby Roode was a great match. The problem was it was third on the card, and I think James Storm winning here just wasn't quite as big of a moment as it would have been if, maybe, for example, they had James Storm versus Bobby Roode in the main event where James Storm would have won that belt. I think that would have been the ultimate payoff for the James Storm storyline. I think it's still a good payoff for the Beer Money storyline, but I don't think really after Bound for Glory, it really went anywhere like it should have done. I mean, he didn't win the title, so that means we've been waiting for this title win for a long time now, and we still don't have it, and he could have had this big title win at the biggest pay-per-view of the year. Instead, TNA went down the Jeff Hardy route, which, quite frankly, even though I thought it could pay off for them, I don't really think has paid off for them in the ratings, so maybe that was a little bit of a bad decision by TNA there. But I think the fact is, they hadn't beat Bobby Roode. My guy finally beat your guy, which I was very glad about. They finally had James Storm win. It was really dependent on what they did after the pay-per-view. And they made him win a number 1 contendership match at Turning Point. But then, from Turning Point onwards, the character took a real nosedive, in my opinion.
Well, the fact that he did, if he won a championship, I think things would have been, after the long year, because the whole year was about James Storm and Roode, and they didn't give it to them. They waited a few more extra months for the next title match where it didn't happen. So I think if this, at Bound for Glory, if it was for the championship, the year would have been complete. Storm would have got his revenge. He would be the champion, and the start of 2013 would have been Storm's year. But they delayed that, and the fact they've taken away this number 1 contendership the following night after the pay-per-view, to be honest, I can only laugh, because you've done a whole year of getting the fans what they want to see, and then you blow it for the second, third time.
Yeah, and your boy got another win over my boy, which I was very unhappy about. But the thing is, even after Bound for Glory, the James Storm character was still on a roll. And then you had him win the number 1 contendership again at, well, pretty much, he won a big match at Bound for Glory, and then he won another big match at Turning Point to become number 1 contender. And I think the kicking point to me came, even though he was on a massive run, they didn't give him the belt at the right time, in my opinion. I think it's got to a point now, even me as a James Storm fan, I feel I've waited too long for this payoff. All the teasers TNA gave me that he was going to be the champion, etc., the match at Lockdown, the Bound for Glory series, and he still has yet to do that, and he still has yet to really complete that story full circle by winning the belt again. Whether or not they'll do that in the future, I don't know, but I think the fact of the matter is they've left it a little bit too long now, where the fans' interest has now kind of caved in. It's very similar to the Aces and Eights angle, but the kicking point to me, like I said, was after Turning Point, when on the following night on Impact, he loses the number one contendership out of nowhere. And at that point, I think my interest in the James Storm character, because he looks stupid, and my interest in the James Storm character just went from probably about there to a point now where he's involved in a filler match on Final Resolution and doesn't really seem to have that much direction, which is a real shame for a character that was on once a massive role in the company.
I think they really blew it with Storm. Yes, they could eventually give him the belt, but I don't think it's going to mean as much as it would have done a few months back, completing the year.
Timing, isn't it, essentially?
Very true. So they could give him the belt by all means, make the Storm fans happy, but I think they've messed up the whole year build they've done. And plus now Storm, we can't even see a direction for him right now. Yes, there's other wrestlers he could face, but nothing concrete. And I think Storm's at a place where he shouldn't have been.
Yeah, and I think the problem here was timing. I mean, it's very similar to the Matt Morgan situation. You had Matt Morgan on a bit of a roll in TNA at one point. They never backed it up with a title win. Now, the James Storm character, in my opinion, really should have been backed up with a title win at some point down the line. Even though I understood why they wanted to go with Jeff Hardy, I still felt that, you know, the longevity of this feud with Bobby Roode and James Storm really should have been the focus. But that's just my opinion. That's the great thing about hindsight. I was for Jeff Hardy winning the belt, looking at hindsight and the ratings and everything like that. Possibly not. But I just wonder, I guess, you take the James Storm character that was once there and is now kind of there. How do you now get James Storm from down there to up there? Because I think it's got past the point where a title win can really do that.
If I was to do anything to try and make that possible, is eventually, once they've gone through the Aries and Hardy's feud, I think it should still be about Jeff Hardy. Have it involve Roode again. Have Roode capture the championship, be all big and musty, and they're all happy about that. And then for Storm to somehow actually get that match and have that final match and actually beat Roode. I think that's the only way it's going to work. Because facing Jeff Hardy is not really going to give us that big wow moment. Aries, he hasn't really been in a feud with Aries. So going back to Roode and Storm for the final time to give him the title would be the only way to go, I think.
Indeed, and it's been really interesting to see where this James Storm character has gone. Started off, you know, in a tag team with Bobby Roode, semi-final of the Bound for Glory series, in a feud with Bobby Roode, you know, all this filler stuff to really enhance his character who's up there. And in 2012, from Destination X Point onwards, when they kind of changed their plans, it seemed like it was at the expense of James Storm, and the once very hot character in TNA is now on a dwindle. And I said it's a real shame. Leave us your thoughts and comments on this video on the development of the James Storm character down in the comment section below, and where you think they kind of went wrong with James Storm. Maybe you don't feel they've done wrong with James Storm. And what do you think is the future direction for James Storm? We'd be really interested to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I feel in 2013, they'll have to make him win the World Championship, but it won't mean as much. They've got to do something with him, surely.
Again, right now, just like I felt during the whole year build, I don't really care about James Storm as much as I should because of how they treated him during that year, especially after the year. So right now, give him the title, but make sure he wins it off Roode.
I guess when Hogan wants his boy, he gets his boy, eh? So there we go. Thank you very much for watching another video. Also featured on TNAsylum.com. For this outro, I now pass you over to NJ.
And for Mr. Parkin and me, NJ, and in support of Beer Money, all we've got is beer money! Until next time, YouTubers, thank you very much, and goodbye.